finally made it to the last chapter of the book of 2nd Kings. Thanks for joining me, Ken Godevanis, here on Digging for Scriptural Gems. Today we're studying 2nd Kings chapter 25, verses 1 to 7. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, with his army, builds a siege all around Jerusalem. The NAT says the built siege ramps all around the city. That's what they did. They built those. And for some reason, the author gives us a precise date this time. He says this was in Nebuchadnezzar's 9th year of reign, but he goes on, in the 10th month and on the 10th day. I don't know why he did that, but nevertheless, this would have been January 15th, 588 BC. And that siege remained until the 11th year of Zedekiah's reign, Zedekiah being the king of Judah. That makes it July 18th, 586 BC, almost a full 18 months. And that year, again, precisely in the 4th month and on the 9th day, the famine, it says, was so bad in Jerusalem, likely due to the siege, that there was no food for anyone in the land. Verse 4 tells us that the city was broken into or attacked, but the soldiers of the city fled by night via the gate between the two walls besides the king's garden. The text says that they knew the Chaldeans, or the Babylonians, same name, were all around the city. So they went by way of the Arabah, or the Rift Valley. Now it gets confusing again because verse 5 says the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook him in Jericho, while all his army had been scattered elsewhere. The NAT says his entire army deserted him, so that tries to explain this scattering bit. We will assume the text is referring to Zedekiah, and he too had tried to flee. They got him and took him to the king of Babylon at Riblah, who sentenced him along with the leaders of his particular nation. And that sentencing included something awful, something terrible. They slaughtered his sons before his very eyes. And then if that wasn't enough, they put out his own eyes, tied him with bronze chains, and took him to Babylon. I can't even imagine it. We're going to stop there and dig deeper. Nebuchadnezzar used the common method of attack in those days of securely walled cities, and that was to build a siege wall with ramps that they could attack the city. The siege was intended to surround a city, prevent all business and trade from entering or leaving the city, and to eventually starve the population into surrender. Now, commentator Dilday points out that the first date reference to the king of Babylon's reign, that is in the 9th year of his reign, is the first time in Kings that an event in the history of Israel is dated by a foreign era. Now, the king's garden, from where the escape took place, this was Zedekiah's last-ditch attempt to save himself, is also mentioned in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 3, verse 15. It's mentioned in conjunction with the pool of Siloam and the stairs that go down from there to the city of David, or from the city of David that go to the pool of Siloam. This would have been in the southern part of the city near the Tyropoeon Valley, which agrees with the reference to the two walls, which were probably the wall on the eastern and western hills. If you've been to Jerusalem, you've been close to those areas if you haven't been right at them. Another interesting point is that the Rift Valley mentioned here extends northward of the Dead Sea past Galilee and southward to the Gulf of Aqaba. Here, the southern part of the Jordan Valley is in view with the intention to escape across the Jordan River to Moab or Ammon. It appears from Jeremiah chapter 40, verse 14, and also chapter 41, verse 15, that the Ammonites were known to harbor fugitives from the Babylonians. Dildy makes another fantastic observation. He says, it seems ironic that here, at the very spot where Israel first set foot on the promised land, that the last of the Davidic kings was captured and his monarchy shattered. Here, where Israel experienced her first victory, as the walls of Jericho fell before unarmed men who trusted God, at this very spot was the scene of Israel's last defeat. We also see that this account fulfilled the mysterious promise God made through Ezekiel regarding Zedekiah shortly before the fall of Jerusalem. He said, I will also spread my net over him, and he shall be caught in my snare. This wasn't the Babylonians. They were the ones that were used to do this, but this was God. I will bring him to Babylon, to the land of the Chaldeans, yet he shall not see it. Remember, they took his eyes out. Though he shall die there. Ezekiel chapter 12, verse 13. The historian Josephus, in his Antiquities, X.8.8, says Nebuchadnezzar, quote, kept Zedekiah in prison until he died, and then he buried him magnificently. This agrees with Jeremiah 34:5. All in all, a terrible end to this king, his family, and of course to Israel. God was not kidding. Next time, we're going to look at what the new captives of Jerusalem had in mind for the city. Join us for that as we continue our study of our heritage as believers. In the meantime, if you haven't done so already, please like this video that you're watching. And if you haven't, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Digging for Scriptural Gems. Please go to YouTube, put in Digging for Scriptural Gems, and subscribe. But above all, I hope you too will be studying the Word of God so that you become more versed with our heritage, but also that you would become closer to Jesus Christ, to build your relationship with him, because that's what all this is about. Have a good one. Till next time.